Welcome back to the ChassisSim version 3 tutorials. In this tutorial, what we're going to be discussing is basically how to interface ChassisSim with your log data and and the process of which you need to go about things. Now, what we're going to be discussing is basically the creation of a monster export file and how to use that monster export file when importing into ChassisSim to create a curvature file and a bump profile. So, without further ado, let's have a look at some actual race data. As you can see with this particular race data, I've actually set it up in the order in which we're going to need to export it to create a monster export file. Here we've got engine RPM, G-force lap, G-force long, front damper positions, rear damper positions, steered angle, throttle position, and wheel speed. Now, I should add that steered angles are steering at the tire as opposed to the steering wheel. This is very, very important. The other thing too I'll mention about the monster export files is that all units are in strict SI. So G is in basically units of G. All damper positions are exported in millimeters. Steered angles is exported in degrees. Throttle position as a percentage, and wheel speed in terms of kilometers per hour. So, I should also add, for the purposes of this illustration, we're going to be exporting out of Motec i2. For other data logging channels, for other data logging systems, you might need to create a specific distance channel because that's what we need first. But you'll see that you'll see that when we actually export the data. So, without further ado, let's export this data out. So I'll go to here and I'll go to export data, and I'm going to export this as a CSV file, and I'm going to export this at 50 hertz. This is very crucial to export at 50 hertz because that's the upper limit of basically where the bump profile toolbox is going to work. And also, in the experience that I've had, it's also a very, very good round number. So what we'll do is we'll export that out, and I'll just create a folder in here, and I'm just going to create a folder in here called monster example, and I'll just click on I'll just click on save. Okay, so we've saved that. Now what we need to do is that we now need to open that CSV file in Excel and basically just do a little bit of editing to it. Okay, the first thing that I would like to point out is the fact that we've exported distance in meters. You'll see here that I've got distance to about three decimal places. This is something that is absolutely critical that you must do when you're generating a monster export file on the simple principle we're going to be using this for both the curvature file and the bump profile. And when we export in the order of about 50 hertz, if you export to the nearest meter, then basically you get to a point where literally ChassisSim will not be able to tell the difference between the various distance increments on the simple principle that if you're exporting at 50 hertz or above, you will be getting samples to within under a meter. So this is something that is very, very important to do. So what we need to do is we're basically going to tidy this up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm basically going to remove all the headers, and I'll just delete that. So basically, as you can see here, this is basically the format that we want the monster export file in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to save this as a text tab delimited file. This is very, very key. You must save this as a text tab delimited file. Under no circumstances save as a Unicode file. So you want this as text tab delimited. So we'll just simply click on Save, click on Yes, click on No here, etc., etc. So what we've now got is that we've now got our monster export file. This is what we're going to be using to generate both our curvature and our bump profile. So let's go back to ChassisSim. As you can see, what I've done is I've already loaded the relevant car file for that particular data. Now, this is very, very key. You must load in the car file that pertains to that set of data. This is very, very important because you need to match up the bump profile as closely to the actual setup that you can. So let's go through now and we'll generate the curvature file. So let's go down to circuit filter curvature file, and this brings up the filter curvature file dialog. So you'll see here that we've got a raw curvature monster. We've got a raw curvature monster import file. So what we'll do here is that you'll notice we've got a tab here. Click here if this file has load. So if you're running strain gauges, if you're running strain gauges with this, you would click here. But obviously we don't have strain gauges, so I'll just click away on that. So what I'll do is I'll click on here and I'll basically navigate to where my monster import file was. I'll indicate that I'm using a monster import file here. Now, this tab here is very important. Click here if AY is positive for right-hand turns. Data loggers will vary in their convention of whether right-hand turns are positive or whether they're negative. So if we just go back to our actual data, let's have a look at turn one. Turn one here is a left-hander, and as we can see, the G is positive for a left-hander. So going back to ChassisSim, we leave this unchecked, and the next thing we do is we put in the frequency of our actual file, which is 50 hertz. And what we're going to do is we'll output this to a folder of our choice. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to output this to the folder where I've actually got the car file. The reason why I'm going to do this is going to become clear in just a moment. So what I will do is I will go back to where I actually got this file from. So just give me a moment while I actually load in this file. So I'll just call this track Sebring demo. So I'll click on open, and then all I've got to do to generate the curvature file is click on OK. We've just generated the curvature file. Now, a force of habit I like to do is when I've created the curvature file, there are two checks that I will run. The first thing I'll do is I'll go into where I've actually saved this file as. Which is my track Sebring demo here, and I'll just quickly open it in Notepad. And as you can see, what